The second part of what we are majorly looking at within Public Works is disaster recovery. Now, after having 2 hurricanes within a week and seeing the water levels rise the way that they did, I was exposed to a map that shows that if the water were to rise 50 feet from a tsunami in the island, and we just heard on the radio not too long ago was what, in 1929, was it? That we had one. So it's not impossible for us to have one. What happens to those low-lying areas? You know, that 2 hurricanes really put us to the test. We did some really great things, but there were some other things that we just couldn't get to. In fact, you're calling every day to Public Works about them now. Trees still need to be fixed. Major problems around the island that we still need to get to. We don't really have a complete disaster recovery plan in place so that if something like that does come along, who would ever thought we'd have 2 hurricanes in 1 week? And we have the water rise 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. What happens then? And what do we do with people who are in those low-lying areas? And in St. George's and St. David's, we've got a lot of low-lying areas. And what happens to power and the sewage? We saw down in the Cayman Islands when they got flooded out, what happened? Everything was contaminated because the plumbing system wasn't up to par. And so these are the things that we are now looking at and how we can put into place so that we can plan for the future. And we have to incorporate in what Redco is doing, what the hotels are doing, what the guest houses are doing, what St. George's is doing, what Southside is doing, and put a complete plan in that works for all of us and not just operating out of a silos. Now, the third thing that has become a major challenge that we are looking at right now, and there's a lot of things, and you'll get to ask questions, and that is tipping. Now, I didn't quite understand tipping at first, you say tipping, I'm wondering who's getting the money in the pocket, you know? But the Honorable Member Bascom, I don't know where he is around here, and Ms. Outerbridge here, MP Outerbridge, having been exposed to some areas in St. George's, we got a problem. I just assumed that, you know, everyone likes to see a beautiful island, but we are dumping trash everywhere. It's not the foreigners who are doing it, who are flying in on a plane to come on vacation. We're dumping trash in our own backyards, and I can't understand it. I can't for the life of me figure why we're doing that to each other. Now the challenge is I don't have the money to figure out how to pick it all up, but I got to pick it all up. And I'm telling you, it's atrocious what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing everything from half jet skis to bikes to refrigerators, air conditions. I mean, we just had a cleanup in constituencies in the mid-island, 12, 13, 14. I was astounded by going through the trees and the number of bottles that I was picking up, but the bottles didn't bother me so much because I know people like to have a drink and then they just throw it out the window. We got to do something about that. But what astounded me was when I walked through the little paths, the amount of truckloads of refrigerators and trash that we are just dumping. And so we got to figure out how to address this because number one, it's going to cause a serious health and safety issue for all of us. And with these contaminations going into the earth and going into, of course, our water, because that's what's happening, the batteries and the likes, and many of us having wells, who's checking to see how contaminated the water really is? And so that's the third challenge that we're looking at in a major way. And then to talk specifically about St. George's. We got town cut that we need to address. There have been several studies that have been done on town cut. There's some that say, you know, I used to call it Rabbit Island when I was a kid coming along because we used to go out there as rabbits on and just jump off, cliff diving. But some of the studies said we just need to put a stick of dynamite to it and let it go and then open it up so the larger ships can come into St. George's. There's another study that suggests that, well, really, it's the length of the ships, not really the width of the ships that's a challenge. So what we need to do really is shave off about 30 to 35 feet and with the new thrusters that they have, they can move in slower than 7 knots and make the adjustments in order to get in. Now, East End, I'm going to say to you, being an East Ender, we need to make up our minds what we want to do. And we need to collectively decide, do we want a cruise ship and cruise ships in St. George's or not? And so the Public Works is willing to sit down and go through this now. Let's not wait any longer. Let's have some meetings and decide once and for all, decide on a time frame between now and 5 months from now, whatever it is. Let's decide on doing something about whether or not we want a cruise ship here. We need to make the decision. And we're just sitting here and we keep talking about it and talking about it. No one's making any decisions. So we need to make the decision what we're going to do. So we're going to take that on. And then secondly, as far as the East End is concerned, the corporation is looking to have a marina. And I believe that needs to happen sooner rather than later. And I have spoken to the mayor and taken on the commitment. That's me trying to tell me to be quiet now and get off the stage. We now need to get this marina going. And I've taken it upon myself to push this thing along. And I know that our cabinet members will work along with us. There is a sticky point that we do have in determining whether or not the Corporation of St. George's has the right to have a commercial marina. It does have the right to put up things for public access. So it can put out a dock and it's for public access, but the legal interpretation is what we're trying to get through now as to whether or not we can put up something for commercial use. And so we'll get through that in the next couple of weeks so we can get going. And then there's Southside, which presents huge opportunities for the Corporation of St. George's on this side. It could build a sewage plant that could handle the challenges that we have here in the Corporation. We now have finally from the BLDC submissions that were put out for an RFP concerning Marginal Wharf. 8 submissions have come in, and we are now looking at 5 of the submissions, the EDC, very seriously with the leadership of our Premier as to how and where do we go forward. Now, these submissions range from putting, the docks that are in Hamilton, moving it in a timely fashion over a period of time into St. George's. We all know that St. George's was the capital at one time. This is where all the action started. So there may be a move in order to do that, but then that means we need to look at the town cut, we need to look at dredging and the likes. So it ranges from that to incorporating a new causeway, which we know that we need to have based on the hurricanes and the damage that continues to happen. And so the submissions are a broad range of high-end hotel on that side, on the water side, and the likes. And so we'll be making that decision, the EDC, and speaking with the BLDC within the next 2 weeks. So we have finally been given those submissions, and we're going to be moving forward with that. So as you can see, there are a whole lot of things that we need to be looking at. The other thing also is the swing bridge. I know that there's been some concern about that, and I'll entertain questions later. But again, I go back to how I started, and that is we have some great opportunities. How do we get our island now back to what we're used to hearing when you get off the plane? What a gorgeous place, what a clean place, and what beautiful Bermudians we do have on the island. And that's what Public Works is working with. It usually has been considered kind of like the runt of all the ministries. It has 800 fantastic people that are working very hard to ensure that you can move about the island freely and enjoy the natural beauty of this island. And later on, we'll entertain questions. Thank you.